whose common allegiance and common call is to the Constitution of India, and more importantly, its endurance. The endurance of the Constitution is a product of the Holy Alliance, the alliance of the people of India, the institutions of governance, and the institution of justice. The call of the legal profession is to serve this Holy Alliance. While the profession engages in the service every day consciously and with full dedication or otherwise, the Constitution Day is a day for stock-taking and for engagement on future roadmaps, not as a ritual, not as a ceremony, but with the very act of assembling, we certify the solemnity of the day. I visualize those serious days of engagement with members of the Constituent Assembly, driven by perseverance of the highest order, and we must thank all of them for giving us a precious document to be protected, preserved, nurtured, and transmitted to the future generations with all the strength and resilience we should bestow upon it during our lifetimes. All of us, being custodians of the great and perennial values of Bharat, with its history of celebration of diversity, are also custodians of the Constitution. The question, however, would always be, how faithful are we in our roles as custodians? How accommodative are we in bridging and narrowing the social gaps which require and deserve elevated levels of resolutions? How inclined are we to astutely avoid wasteful and distorting social conversations which can debilitate our social fabric? How wedded are we to envision and innovate ideas, methods, procedures and institutions to promote and realize equality and equal regard? And how conscious are we about what Rabindranath Tagore called the narrow domestic walls that can engender our togetherness as a nation? All these questions are questions of being custodians of the Constitution. During an address at a special session of the Parliament of Guyana, Honorable Prime Minister said that India was never expansionist, stayed away from further other resources. This is a timely statement of huge value for global consumption, and it underscores India as a country of sharing. I think the Constitution of India is not merely a document which codifies public and private power, and is a document symbolizing the values of sharing all the common resources and the common wealth of the nation through an orderly process. It is this orderly process that Part 3 and Part 4 of the Constitution have elegantly scripted. So it is that we assemble year after year to celebrate the birth and the endurance of the Constitution to the Holy Alliance I mentioned above. In a letter written from New York on 7th August 1895, Swami Vivekananda wrote thus: "Neither numbers, nor powers, nor wealth, nor learning, nor eloquence, nor anything else will prevail, but purity, living the life, in one word, anubhuti, realization." He went on to say, "He who pours water at the root, does he not water the old tree?" As we talk about celebrating 75 years of our Constitution, we are talking about pouring water with care and attention at the root, which is the Constitution, and about flourishing the whole nation, which is a tree. But we have many miles to go before we can say a good part of the constitutional goals have been realized. 75 years of constitutional working with all possible economic and social experiments have demonstrated that no one singular economic model will work. India stands tall today in the global scene socially, politically and economically with calibrated achievements in many fields, and the credit must go to the wide range of players in governance. I suppose that faith in constitutional governance has made that possible. With the irreversibilities of globalization and the bounties of technology that humanity has not seen earlier, we have the realization that a free world of ideas and endeavors creates and generates wealth and resources good for all. The foundations for equality are thus newly laid. We are called upon to open up new plans and roadmaps for the equality march. Our Constitution permits these experiments with all due regulations, and our courts will endorse such plans and insofar as diversities and legitimate claims are duly addressed. We, the people of India, have a duty to ensure that the Constitution endures, and only an enduring Constitution can script ordered liberty. both rights and liberties running riot, or restrictions which stifle or discriminate, are anathema to an enduring constitution. Judicial interventions with legislative measures conceived as immune from court scrutiny, such as legislation placed in the 9th schedule, have shown that the separation of powers will take many avatars. While such avatars can be part of rule of law, as some recent judgments show, it will be equally important that given the complexities of challenges raised by the multitude of factors, global and domestic, many of which do not admit of any easy and simple solutions, one expects that parliamentary experiments and executive deliberations will not be easily halted. We are talking about the balance between rigidity and flexibility in constitutional practice. A conversation attributed to Gautam Buddha with his disciple Swana reads like this: When were you a householder? Were you skilled at playing the lute? Yes, Lord. When the strings of the lute were too taut, was it tuneful and fit for playing? Certainly not, Lord. And when they were slack, was the lute tuneful and fit for playing? No, Lord. But when the strings were neither too taut nor too slack, but were keyed to an even pitch, was your lute tuneful and fit for playing? Yes, Lord. Even so, Swana, is the dharma that I propose. I suppose on this day that you are talking about the dharma of keeping the constitution neither too taut nor too slack, but tuneful and fit for working. Our criminal justice system is awaiting considerable changes in addition to the 3 well-meaning legislation that have been enacted. There is a lot more to be done in order that the justice needs of the poor and the deprived are met adequately and without delay. The criminal justice system must generate the comfort level which alone can be an index of a fair and just society. Our prison houses will then become places of real correction, as the justice system would have done better. Maybe it's time that we seriously think about a national criminal justice administration institution which can produce the kind of results we are talking about. I am tempted to say that in due proportion to our conduct in keeping the Constitution as an enduring document, India will be a land most admired. Xuanzang, a Chinese traveler long ago, wrote in the early 17th century. He said, people of different places with diverse customs generally designate the land they most admire as India. A quote. On the occasion of celebrating 75 years of a constitution, can we not, in chorus, say that it demands of us to constantly try to reach and retain this admiration walking the path of the constitution? Jai Bharat.